Udoike of No Limit won the Most Valuable Players Award, while the batter of the series was David Abedoyi of Invictus Cricket Club. And to some rugby news, we go. Fidelia Angelis, a Canada-based rugby player, has backed the Nigeria women's rugby to properly develop into a competitive institution following their outing at the just concluded African Games in Accra, Ghana. Fidelia, who was the captain of the Lady Stallions of Nigeria, at the 13th edition of the African Games, making their first African debut in the major competition, praised the spirit of the team despite losing all of their games against Ghana, Uganda, and Madagascar. In rugby union, the star athlete has continued to shine after giving birth to her third child. Fidelia Angelis recently won the title of this year's Female Club Player of the Year for Rugby Ontario, representing the Union Club, Scarborough ROFC. And in athletics, this morning, Commonwealth Games Singapore today joins Malaysia in ruling out hosting of the 2026 Commonwealth Games, further plugging the future of the multi-sports event into doubt. The Commonwealth Games Federation has been scrambling to find a new host after the Australian state of the Victoria withdrew last year because of soaring costs of hosting the games. Malaysia emerged as a possible replacement but turned down the opportunity last month because of the cost, despite the offer of €100 million sweetener from the SCGFC. Commonwealth Games Singapore and Sports Singapore have studied the feasibility of hosting the 2026 Commonwealth Games and have decided not to make any bid to host the games. The two sports bodies said in a joint statement, giving no more details. And of course, a lot there. It's quite challenging to get to see why these games will not be hosted, and certainly it's not sharing at all when you hear news like this. If at this point we are still battling with who to host or where to host, it makes no room for. It brings doubt truly to the possibility of getting to host the competition. But like I said, the community of the Commonwealth Games will live up to expectation, and I'm very certain and sure that they will also do so well when it comes to believing in their abilities, getting things right, and fostering success. For me, it's about doing what is right. For me, it's about engaging in peaceful activities that will enhance the hosting of this competition, because sports is a unifying factor, and if anybody must, if we must have a successful host, then a lot of indices, a lot of measures, a lot of planning must take place to ensure that we have a good host come next year, and come 2026. And if at this time we are yet to get that, then a lot it tells on the arrangement planning of the Commonwealth or states in the Commonwealth Union. But let's move away from that now, and let's bring you some news in table tennis, where former Wimbledon champion Simona Halep has been given a wild card at this month's Madrid Open as she continues her comeback from a doping ban. Halep, who is 32-year-old, returned to the WTA tour last month after her 4-year ban was reduced to 9 months on appeal. The Romanian was free to return immediately and was given a wild card for the Miami Open, where she lost to Spain's Paula Badoza in round 1. Madrid will be the two-time Grand Slam champion, second tournament back. Former French Open champion Halep is a two-time winner of the clay court event, which is part of the WTA 1000 series and one of the leading tournaments outside the 4 Grand Slam. Similarly, former world number 1 Caroline Wozniacki, who returned in August after having 2 children, has also received a wild card, along with Japan's injury Kai Nishikori and Spanish teenager Martin Landulus in the men's singles. The Madrid Open starts on the 22nd of April and of course conclude on the 5th of March. And of course this particular one is even sharing, getting to see all that is happening, from that quarter. But let's still move on and let's talk about something very dramatic. Still in tennis, of course, we have a lot that has transpired in recent time, and we cannot fail to also bring you some of those happenings. And one of them is that a British Jack Draper plans to make a return in a quick succession, and for him, his preparation for the Wimbledon this summer is massive. At 22, he missed last year's Change Championship because of a shoulder injury which ruled him out of the entire British court. This year, he has climbed to a career high of 37th in the world, and he's set to be joined at Queen's by compatriot Cameron Norrie and Dan Evans, which of course will really do so well for him when it matters. The championship takes place at the West London Club from 15th to 23rd of June, and let's see how it all pans out. One thing very important is, regardless of the event, it's lovely to see how things are panning out in that area, and I can tell you for sure too that a lot of input will be done if you want to start looking at the dynamics of the way things are done. But like I said, the clay season is upon us, and a lot of preparation for that particular one. So the likes of Jack Draper, the young lads who are trying to make their name, will all come out in fine fashion. Not also forgetting that wild card entrance given to the likes of Caroline Wozniacki, Paula Badoza, who both of them have shared similar fate. They've not been part of the sport for a very long time, but they came in and they looked like, for Paula Badoza, the ban on her suspended. She needed a wild card entrance so that she can be part of it, and then to get to see Caroline Wozniacki, who is doing so well, if you ask me, in recent time in tennis, also very challenging. So let's wish them the best of luck, and let's see to what extent they can go. But away from that, now let's talk some basketball news, and of course we have the complement of result in basketball this morning, and I will start with what is happening in the NBA. It's a lot going down in the NBA. The Charlotte Hornets were majestical on tonight, but I mean they did not live up to the expectation that one would have expected them. If you look at the way the season has gone for them and the way they are going about their games, they lost in a very tricky encounter. 86-89 it ended in that particular one. They won. They lost in the first quarter 21-30 to Portland Trail Blazers. Won in the second quarter 23-15, and then also went ahead, played tie in the third quarter, and then they lost in this. So it was a very slim margin in a game where they never posted maximum returns. The Spectrum Center, that was where that game was played, and so a lot of drama already in that particular one. But like I said, it was a game that really lived up to expectation. Very cagey encounter there between Charlotte Hornets and the Portland Trail Blazers. Washington Wizards, another team that we saw in the early hours of this morning, did so well. But in recent time, I mean, what we have seen is the tight, game. I mean, the result has been very engaging because the result is maybe 5-point difference, 2-point difference. We've even seen 1-point difference in recent time in basketball, and that tells you how engaging it can be. So for basketball lovers, you know that we're counting down to the play-in and the playoff season, where teams that have done so well, the top 7 teams will of course automatically qualify, and then we're going to get some teams who are going to play the play-in. So everything is jostling for points, to ensure that they meet up the demand. For other teams who are far, in their conferences, no hopes for them, but teams are still hoping that things can still change from now. It all depends on the kind of their win margin and their average points per game. So for Washington Wizards, terrible in that day because they did so well, started brilliantly. They lost in the first quarter of that game against the Los Angeles Lakers, 39-29 in that game. So 10 points different in the first quarter. They came back very strong in the second quarter. They got that particular one, 31-28, just a 3 points difference, and they won. And then they went into the third quarter, losing 34-26, and that seems to be the challenge, if you ask me. And that quarter really dropped their settings a little bit, and then although they came back so strong in the fourth quarter, did the needful, got 34-24, 10 points difference between them, but that 10 points was not enough to close the margin of defeat, because finally they lost that particular one with 5 points, 120-125 to the Los Angeles Lakers. Another game that we saw in the early hours of this morning was the game played at the State Farm Arena, the home of Atlanta Hawks. And the Hawks were at ease because they did so well. The game ended 121-113 in that particular one. But then, regardless of how good they were, Detroit Pistons of all the teams, got the better of them. And you will ask them questions. The way home teams have been losing in recent time, it shows that NBA has really come of age. No respect for any team. If you are not good enough on the day, you can be beating black blue. But then they lost. No, yeah, truly, I think they lost. Apologies that Atlanta Hawks were able to get a pound of flesh against their visitors, Detroit Pistons, in a dramatic showdown. 121-113, it ended in favor of Atlanta Hawks, and clearly we saw how the game went. In the first quarter, it was 28-23, 5-point margin in the first quarter between Detroit Pistons and the Atlanta Hawks, and it went the way of Atlanta Hawks. It came again in the second quarter, 31-27, and that was another good showing and a statement of fact also. And then in the third quarter, 33-29. It's still margin, 5-point difference, no doubt, but it made a whole lot of difference in that game. And then the last set, they lost, but the Detroit Pistons win did not in any way impacted, the final result of the game. It ended 29-34 in favor of Detroit Pistons in the fourth quarter. But that was just a consolation win, but it never ever impacted as the game ended 121-113 in favor of the host. And the hosts here, Atlanta Hawks, will be very happy because they too have been struggling, trying to also get a maximum points to elevate their standard of seeing if they can qualify for the playoffs. And then Boston Celtics, one of their standing teams this season, no doubt, they've been very fantastic in and off the court. I mean, a lot of things going for them. They are seated top of the Eastern Conference, and you understand why things are panning out this way. They've been very formidable in their style of play. Dismantled the Oklahoma City Thunders in the early hours of this morning, 135-100. It ended in that particular one, and this is how the result panned out in a game that was played at the TD Gardens. And of course, if you visit the Boston Celtics in the TD Gardens, their home ground, we are sure to be beaten because this season looks like a team that will go all out. We saw how they fumbled the last time. They did everything they could, fought so hard, but finally Denver Nuggets were better than them. This season, it looks like they are back gunning for the title, doing everything possible, winning home and away, and they won't give anything to chance to see that they get this particular. But in NBA history, it is not how far you go that matters, because you need to be very strong from day one and also show your strength when it comes to the playoffs first. But so far, they look like a team that will comfortably win the Eastern Conference because they are seated top of the Eastern Conference. So let's look at how the game ended at the TD Garden, the home of Boston Celtics, where we saw in the first quarter, it ended 30-23 in that particular one. The very first victory for the Boston Celtics in that game. And then we also saw how they also displayed in the second quarter, 31-24, an outstanding showcase for me, if you ask me. And then clearly, they lost in the third quarter. We saw the good performance from Oklahoma City Thunder, 6-32, top 4-point margin between them, but then outstanding feat, 42-17. That was clear showing from Boston Celtics to ensure that they wrap up that particular one in fine format. And with the way they have beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder, who of course, some sports holders will tell you that they too have been in fine form. You have no doubt but to reason that Boston Celtics continues to make claim as to their intent this season. Let's move away from that particular one now, and let's talk about Brooklyn Nets, who of course got their win against the Indiana Pacers, 115-111. Just 4-point difference between them. I mean, if you've been following, I've said earlier that the NBA in the last, this year, we have seen slim margin between win and defeat, or victory and defeat. And for those, you don't need to win and stand, except for like Boston Celtics that won, in clear fashion, 35 points between them and the Oklahoma City Thunders this morning. Otherwise, sometimes it's difficult to really see those point margin. What we've seen in recent time is 5 points, 10 points, 2 points. We've even seen 1 point difference, in overtime. And all these plays or tells that the NBA is really, really highly contested for the Oklahoma City Thunder side. Have been very, very formidable, very good. But that does not take away the beauty of what the Boston Celtics have to offer. And if you talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets and Indiana Pacers, we saw how good they were, 115-111, in their own home ground there. And it tells you how good that they can do when it comes to the Barclays Center where they play their game. They started poorly, 19-31 in the first quarter, and one was, a lot of basketball fans were wondering if they are going to lose that game to Indiana Pacers, who of course started very brilliantly. And when the team scores 39 points, it scores below 20 points in the first quarter, there is this pressure naturally from the fans, because these franchises have a lot to gain when the fans come to watch this game, especially if you live within the Brooklyn, you know for sure that it is a city that fans are eager, to follow sporting activities, especially basketball. And the Barclays Center's house, one of the best court we can ever talk about in the NBA. But they lost in the first quarter, 1931. Went on to win and announced their comeback in the second quarter, 42-31. It ended in that particular one. Just 10 points difference, if you ask me. But then they came back, also got the third quarter, 27-25. That was a very close margin. Then they wrapped it up 27-24 in the third quarter. That was outstanding for me, if you ask me. And that ended that close margin. 115, 111. They could have lost just 4 points, and that 4 points made a lot of impact, in recent times. So for me, I think that happenings in recent time has really shown that basketball is really regarded and respected when it comes to the NBA. Teams are really fighting and forging hard. Milwaukee Bucks and the Memphis Grizzlies, another team that we saw in the early hours of this morning. We saw that particular one, and of course, it went the way of the Memphis Grizzlies at the FISA Forum, the home of the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks have now lost back-to-back, and this season looks like a season that they are just struggling to keep pace with the league there. Unfortunately, let's see how it all pans out. They are the winners. A few seasons ago, we saw Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP, who has also done very well in recent time for himself. But surprisingly, it is difficult to really say how they have been losing at the FISA Forum, their home ground. They lost 1-0, 4-1-11, and just 10 points difference between them in that particular one. So let's look at where the missing link was seen in that particular game. 22-26, they lost in the first quarter, drew 27-27 in the second quarter, and went to the third quarter, 29-26, just a little point difference, and then they were dismantled in the third quarter. 10 points dismantling there, or humbling by the Memphis Grizzlies. That ensured that they ran out 10 points clear, between them and the Milwaukee Bucks in that encounter. And then another game we also saw was the Minnesota Timberwolves, who defeated the Toronto Raptors at the Target Arena, their home ground there. It ended 133-85. This seems to be the biggest win, today in the NBA because of the point margin between both sides. But the Minnesota Timberwolves were in fine fashion at home, did so well, started brilliantly, won almost all the quarters. 23-19, it ended in the first quarter. We saw them display 35-25 in the second quarter, 33-18 in the third quarter, and 42-38 in the fourth quarter, ensuring that they live up to expectation. An outstanding victory for them in that particular one. What a way to announce their fate in the happenings there. So the New Orleans Pelicans also lost at home to Orlando Magic, 108-117. It ended in favor of Orlando Magic there at the Smoothie King Center at the home of the New Orleans Pelicans. 26-24 was what we saw in the first quarter. 29-34 we saw in the second quarter, and of course they lost the game 21-33 in the third quarter before Orlando Magic wrapped things up. Okay, they even lost. Orlando Magic lost, but that never made any difference, because they had already done the needful. 32-26, they lost, but then they ended up 117 point ahead of, better off than the New Orleans Pelicans, 108 points. So these are some of the games we saw. Not forgetting the last one, which we want to bring to your interest if you're a basketball fan, and that was the game between the Phoenix Suns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Phoenix Suns themselves also struggling, to get a playoff ticket this season. They were very clinical on the day against. They posted maximum point and also scored some good basket there to ensure that they moved a point, which was very dramatic for them. But they ended up getting a win in that particular one. 122-101 clinical finish, and that was a 21-point difference between them and the Cleveland Cavaliers at their home ground, the Footprint Center there in the United States of America. 34-20, it ended in the first quarter. We saw them displayed highly, 38-27. That was clear showcasing, of their form and what they have to offer in the NBA. And then 26-30, they are losing that one, but it never made any difference because they came back in the last quarter and drew that one 24-24. point, and that ensured that they had a 21-point difference, between them and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So these are some of the games we have seen so far. So you want to ask now, how does the NBA look right now in the standing? We'll get to look at the standing of the NBA and how teams are filing out. So let's see the top 7 teams in both conferences and the possibility of things to happen. Of course, the NBA games to come alive today. We are going to see a lot of games, come alive. Games in the early hours of tomorrow morning, which is of course this evening in the NBA. So Heat will take on the 76 hours. We're going to see New York Knicks take on Sacramento Kings, and that will be very early tomorrow by 12 thereabout. The Dallas Mavericks will take on Atlanta Hawks, and then Houston Rockets versus Golden State Warriors. Not forgetting Los Angeles Clippers versus Denver Nuggets. These are games to expect in the early hours of tomorrow morning, and clinically we'll get to see how far it all follows. But let's look at the stand, like I said, so we'll be able to abreast ourselves with the teams that are the front runners for the playoffs position. In the Eastern Conference, clearly, I talked about the Boston Celtics. They have been in phenomenal showcase. They are seated with 60 wins so far, losing just 16 in the season, and that tells you how good they have been, in recent time. They have also had a very good running, an average point of 789 points this season, one of the best you can ever think of, and that's why they are seated top in the Eastern Conference. They also have, following them is the Bucks with 47 win as compared to the 60 win of the Boston Celtics. They've lost 29 times, and then they have an average point of 618 points overall. And for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they stand for me as the surprise package of the season, because we have seen them winning 46 games and losing for 31 times, in the league. 597 points so far they have racked, but that does not stop the effort and prowess of what they stand to gain. And of course, you talk about the Orlando Magic that are seated fourth in the Eastern Conference with 529, point margin, winning 45 points, and they're losing 31 games so far this season. Other teams in the top 7, we have the New York Knicks, we have the Heat, and then the Pacers, all make for the first 7 teams that might possibly get playoffs if the season should end right now. Then let's move now to the Western Conference, where clearly we also saw some drama there, and nobody would have believed that Timberwolves will be topping the season at this point in time. When you compare the point margin 697 as compared to what we have 789, it tells you how good the Boston Celtics are overall in the NBA so far, and that tells the majestic showing of the Boston Celtics and the clear statement of intent to getting to win this league this season, because they lost out last season and it was drama galore all through. And then it's also very, very dramatic to know that a lot of things we talk about in recent time cannot be jettisoned, because they have been very, very phenomenal. For the Nuggets are very fantastic. We saw what they did. They win as the defending champion for last season, but then you cannot also debunk the excellence in what they've been able to achieve. They are second with 53 wins so far as compared to 23 losses, in the NBA, with a point margin of 697 so far. Then the Thunders, Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, Phoenix Suns, who of course won the game this morning, we are also in fantastic fashion. And then not forgetting the Pelicans, who gradually are building themselves to something good this season. Should they end in the 7th place, they will be hopeful of picking a playoff ticket, for the NBA. But let's see, drama galore. The likes of the Lakers, yes, they won this morning, but that was not enough for them. They are still struggling. Seated 9th. The likes of Red 9 with 44 wins, 34 losses this season. You talk about the Golden State Warriors. I mean, a team loved by many, Steph Curry and others. They are doing so well. But clearly, they are still struggling to see if they can get a play-in season, a playoff ticket, and how the season goes. So these are happenings in the regular season, and I tell you, it promises to be very soon. When just wait, if you're a fan of NBA, this is where to be. We'll bring you an abreast with informations, updates, and scores on daily basis of what is happening in the NBA. The NBA is one of the most lucrative league when it comes to basketball, if not the best in the planet Earth. And of course, we cannot fail to bring you up to speed with latest happening from that side. Let's go on a quick break now. When we come back, we'll dive into football matters, and let's talk about what transpired yesterday across various centers in the Nigeria Premier Football League, as well as the news from England. Arsenal, for 24 hours, will be the table toppers in the English Premier League.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
And Atlantic Television Network, and of course if you followed us in the last 30 minutes, we talked about a lot happening in sports and other sports, and it's time to talk football matters here. And we'll start with the Nigeria Women Football League results of games we saw yesterday across various centers. But joining us now to look at the football matters we have on our menu this morning is Emmanuel Michael, the man I call the Mike Man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Temple, and good morning to our listeners.
All right, quickly, let's delve into the Nigeria Women Football League, where Peace F. Young's 42-minute goal was all that Rivers Angels needed to respond and deny Sunshine Queens a point on match day 12th encounter of the Nigeria Women Football League played at the Akure Township Center. Of course, Bonda White, the manager of the side, is gradually, pouring encomium on Rivers State government for their support in ensuring that they travel away from home and won that particular one.
Yeah, I think it was a massive victory for Rivers Angels out there. Don't forget, they've been doing pretty well so far this season, and I expected them to get all 3 points in that very one. But then going away to get a 3-point, away from home, I think it's something that you often find very difficult in this part of the climb. But then I think Rivers Angels just went there to show their supremacy, to show that indeed there is still a force to be reckoned with when you talk about the Nigerian Women Football League here in the country. I think courtesy of that victory right now, you can say yes, they are also guaranteed of the playoff as it stands right now, because they are topping their table out there in the Group B, which is very, very important. Let's hope that they continue in this fine fashion in the last remaining few games that we are about to play right now. But in all, I just think it was an impressive display from the Rivers Angels' point of view.
Of course, Rivers Angels' next game is against Bayelsa Queens in Port Harcourt on the 17th of April. Other result of games we saw yesterday across various centers: Ekiti Queens defeated Edo Queens 1-0. Ramo Stars were 1-0 better off than FC Robo Queens. Delta Queens also defeated Bayelsa Queens 1-0. Confluence Queens were 2-1 better off than Heartland Queens. And Niger Rattles, the highest winners in yesterday's league game, defeated Royal Queens 3-0. What we saw was close margin in all, except for the game between Niger Rattles and the Queens Ladies.
Yeah, very, very close margin, you want to say. In all, we had one away victory, one draw as well. So for me, I think it was an improvement of what we saw last time out, But then, one team that I was surprised that they were able to get all 3 points is Niger Rattles. Niger Rattles, they've actually struggled so far this season. And at a point, you look as though they were not going to make it even for the playoff. But as it stands right now, they might might, courtesy of that victory, I think it has given them an edge, but then I think it was an impressive display in all. Having won away win and won away draw in this week's Women Football League here in the country, I think it's a massive improvement for me.
Massive improvement, and that takes us now to the Nigeria Premier Football League, where we saw improvement galore from teams who made a lot of statements, and we shall analyze some of those statements in the light of the victories and the games we saw in those stadiums. And we'll start with Doma United. They picked a hard-fought 1-0 victory against Aqua United in Uyo at Oboza MPFS Survival Hope as Eyimba. I mean, that one is the first one. We'll look at that particular one first off.
Yeah, I think for me it was a good one for Doma United. Doma United was is one of the clubs that started the season like a house on fire this season. At some point there was a talk about them contending for the title, and of course their goalkeeper then was also touted at least to make the national team call up because of his impressive performance so far, when he actually kept about 12 clean sheets. So at some point we're talking about him making it to the national team squad, but then it looked as though for Doma United, as the league continued to come along, as the game continued to come along, especially in week 18, week 20, 23, down to date, they seems not to have, to find their footings any longer as they continue to churn out bad results out there. They had to break that jinx of 10 matches, winless streak out there at at Aqua United. Aqua United as well also, in their last 3 games, they have not lost any game. They won 2 of their last 3 games and drawn just 1. So you expected them to build on that momentum, but then all of a sudden they had to, relieve their coach of, his appointment, and had to a higher former coach of this same Doma United, which is Baba Ganaru, and he came in within the shorter period of time. You don't expect him to, do the magic out there, because he needs time as well to be able to perfect his tactics, with the players out there. He needs time as well to get to understand, know the strength of each player in the team as well. So, and that time was not there for him, and that is why he lost at home. I think for me it's quite disappointing, but for Doma United, I think it's a big win for them, because they needed that 3 point to also complement or consolidate themselves on the log.
Happy Ewotu Ziam's goal in the 13th minute, Mboma Chijoke in the 35th minute, Joseph Sanodu Atule scored a brace 44th minute and 69th minute, and Alade Balogun, who seeded off in the 90+3 minutes, ensured that Eyimba thrashed Kano Pillars, 2 of the best sides in the league.
Yeah.
5-0. This is outstanding. This is one of the most talked about in recent time in the Nigeria Premier Football League.
Very sensational result for the People's Elephants out there. Of course, meeting up against Kaduna United, who is one of the traditional teams here in the Nigerian Premier Football League. You want to say yes, that was built to be one of the biggest games. Over the
when you play against Kano Pillars have won the league 4 times,
yes, times.
9 times, I beg your pardon. It's even more impressive to get to see that, okay, this would have lived with expectation, maybe a draw, or maybe go goals from the both sides. But what we saw was a total embarrassment on the part of Kano Pillars not responding to that game.
Yeah, first half alone, it was 4-0 in first half alone. So they had to come back second half, and score the, remaining 1 goal that made it 5. I think for me it was an embarrassing outing for them, because just like you said, both these 2 teams have actually won the league more than any other. Joined 13 times between Eyimba and them. So I think for me, it was a very, very sweet victory for Eyimba, because they are also contending for the title. Courtesy of that victory right now, they are seated second on the log, closely behind Enugu Rangers, who also is not backing down. They are also continue to fire from all cylinders as they also won last time out. I think for me it was an impressive one for Eyimba.
Impressive one. Enugu Rangers talked about defeated Sunshine Stars 2-0 at the Cathedral yesterday, and then Gombe United played a goalless draw with Remo Stars. Sporting Lagos held Lobby Stars to a 1-0 draw it looks like Lobby Stars, I mean, with the way they are not getting the result they desire, they will be going down because as stands now, it's now Enugu Rangers and Eyimba who are the first two, and that is a clear statement of fact.
Sure, for insurance, I think they were the one that actually forced that draw from the Lagos side club. I think I think for me it was a very disappointing one for them out there, because playing at home, you expected them. You know how raucous the Lagos fans are and how noisy they are. So it was always a very difficult place to go and get a point out there. But then Benden Insurance did the unthinkable, going to Lagos, picking an away point out there. I think it's very massive in their quest to also stay afloat of the table.
Benden Insurance talked about a loss to Niger Tornadoes at 3-1. It ended in that clash there at home. And Niger Tornadoes making a clear statement of fact, traveling to Benin to beat Benden Insurance 3-1. Wow, this is a surprise. Not many will see this one coming in any direction. Abia Warriors defeated Plateau United, in that game, and I'm looking for Heartland. Heartland, yes, they lost to Plateau United 1-0, and the woes continues for Obi, who of course is the one at the end of affair. Shooting Stars defeated Kwara United all the way to bounce back from their loss last weekend. 2-1 it ended, and of course the game between Remo Stars, Katsina United and Rivers United was not played because of continental engagement. But these are happenings, in the league yesterday. It's, for me, it's lovely to get to see how the league is turning out.
Definitely, I think this is one of the most competitive, league as it stands right now, because in Enugu Rangers that is seated first, and the club seated at 5th position. They just have about 1, 2, 3 points separating all these 5 teams out there. It tell you how keenly contested this season the league has become. I think for me it is the beauty of the Nigerian Premier Football League, where we see 5 teams jostling till the last day of the league before you can truly say, yes, okay, this one truly deserves to win this very well, and not more like a 1-horse race or 2-horse race out there where 2 teams will just be going for each other's jugular. I think, all these teams have their work cut out, and they need to work very, very hard to ensure that at least if they get to win this one, they know that truly they deserve it, because it has been very, very competitive since the first day when the league kicked off. You have seen, this competition among these top 5 clubs. I think it's a massive improvement so far.
Massive improvement, and if you look at the league now, the first top 10 teams have close margin. Some 9-point difference, some 8-point difference, some 5-point difference, but it doesn't matter. One thing that matters so much is that Enugu Rangers now have 51 points in the league after 28 matches, and they have lost just 15 times. They drew 6 and they lost 7 times this season. Enugu Rangers with Fidelis Zinechiku, very outstanding. They look like a team that want to go all out. Eyimba, Lobby Stars, Remo Stars followed with 48 points, in bracket, but goal difference, the marketing, the side. So it still looks very easy to say that the league is not undusted. But as stands now, Enugu Rangers have really shown that they are heading in the sky of their own. If they get to win they have not lost in the last few games, and if they get to win consistently in the next 3 games, there's no way that results will not change for some of the teams that are chasing them. And at that point, maybe we'll start seeing clearly who the champion might just be, because they have just a few more games to play, and that does it this season.
Yeah, for Enugu Rangers, I think they have shown that indeed that tactical credentials, they are up. They are also living up to the hype. I mean, before the start of the season, nobody actually even called Enugu Rangers to be in the mix of the team that is going to be chasing for the title this season. They've actually gone beyond many people's expectations so far this season, and yesterday's game actually makes it 10 winning 10 match running streak for them, because in 10 games so far right now, they've not lost any game. It tells you of a team, that is clearly gone in for the title. If they actually continue in this fine form, then it will be very, very, difficult for anyone not to agree that they're definitely going to lift the league so far. But then they still have, a lot of work to do, because in the Nigerian Premier Football League, you can never say never. Even if you are 2 or 3 points ahead of your closest rival, it is not done and dusted until the last day of the league before you can truly say that you've done it. And you just need to continue, working hard. They just just need to continue to give out such impressive display on the pitch of play, and see what the destiny holds for them at the last day of the league. But as it stands right now, within the few games that is remaining, one thing is very certain, that if they can be able to win all of these games, then they are sure as winning the league, because as it stands, their destiny is in their hand. It's left for them to let it fly away from their hand. But then I see them doing an impressive job so far. This is looking at the way they've been very, very consistent. I mean, undoubtedly, they are one of the best teams so far this season.
And then looks like the General Secretary of Nigerian Football Federation are really mobilizing, for the game between Nigeria and South Africa. And the man, Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, has also, is doing so well in terms of mobilization, trying to see if they can really get Nigerians in the Federal Capital Territory to come out and support the ladies in their quest to win against the Bayana. And people don't get to follow female football so much, but this is a very crunch tie, and you want to look at the way they are going about it. You think that this will really come out. Abuja fans are not they are not sport enthusiasts as compared to the rest of Lagos, and other parts of Nigeria. But I think if proper mobility programs are done, not just going on air saying that you should come, you need to be very strategic. You need to provide. You need to provide the cab or the boxes, at strategic locations for fans to troop in, those who are willing, and let's see if they work out.
Yeah, let's see if it works out. But my worry is about taking this game down to Abuja. I think in this kind of game, this game of such magnitude, it should have been taken to either Lagos or Uyo, where at least you expect fans to turn out in their numbers to come and cheer the Super Eagles to victory. Taking it to Abuja, a residential area where most of them are there, big men in quotes, most of them will rather decide to sit back at the comfort of their home to watch those games, other than coming out to the street or going to the stadium out there to watch this game. So I expected the NFF to take this game down to Lagos, where we'll have more of the crowds out there. Of course, the Lagos crowd, their fans are there, the way they are very, very enthusiastic about football. So I think that should have given us an added advantage. But then I think the call is also necessary. We need to rally support for the Super Falcons to ensure that we get all the victory in this very one against the Bayana. But then my only area of worry and concern is about the fact that our preparation so far for this game is very, very faint. Why? Because it was just yesterday that most of the players reported to camp, about 18 of them, whereas the South African girls, they have been camping out there in South Africa for the last 1 week before, jetting down to Nigeria.
And they came very early too.
And they came very early too. We are at home. We are taking everything, for granted. For me, we've shown that, levity, which is going to, be a clog in the wheel of our progress. Even some of our key players like Asisa Toshola, also will be arriving a day before the game. In such steady preparation, do you expect us to give out our best against a certain South African side that is very, very good? If you want to mention top 3 female teams right here in the continent, there is no way you cannot mention South Africa, Nigeria, possibly Algeria as well. These are some of the best teams that we have here in Africa, and you want to play against them. Don't forget, it's 15 to 16 years down the line. The Falcons have never made it to the Olympic, and we are trivializing it. I think for me, it looks as though the players are not even excited or enthusiastic about going to the Olympic, because the South Africans, since a month now, their coach talking about Ellis, have been talking very, very tough. They step into the country, and she said it very clear that she's not afraid, and they don't care about the fans, and they don't care about the hostility or the environment in which they find themselves. What they care is about the tickets to make it to the Olympic, and that is the angle I'm very worried. We are not prepared. We allowed the South African to do much of the preparation while we came in late into the camp, having just 2 or 1 day to prepare and get the best out of this player. How do you think you can be able to perfect your tactics and get to dish out instruction to the players out there? How do you expect them, to have that, that understanding among themselves, within just short period of time, 2 to 3 days, and you expect them to gel properly well, more than teams that have come for the last 1 week or even 2 weeks thereabout. I think that is the angle I'm very worried about. Let's hope that, on the D-Day, they're going to go out there and beat the odds, thereby getting us the tickets.
When we come back this evening, we'll have more close analysis on the preparation of the Super Falcons as they prepare for the showdown tomorrow against the Banyana of South Africa. But in the meantime, let's move away from the continent now and straight to England we go, where Arsenal overcame very strong resistance yesterday, courtesy of the absence of Bukayo Saka. They came back very strong against struggling Luton at Emirates, to win that particular one. 2-0 ended, but it was a showdown. They had one game. Odegaard rescued them, and then they had an own goal. But Luton proved to be a strong knock, yesterday for them.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't a banana peel for Arsenal. They had to work their fingers to the bone to ensure that they, get all 3 points, because Luton is one team that is very, very stubborn. One thing is certain: anytime you play against Luton, even if you get to win them, you need to work extremely hard. Don't forget, in the first leg between Arsenal and Luton, it was Declan Rice, a late goal that actually separated, the both sides. If not, it was heading for 3-3. But then Declan Rice came in at the nick of time to be able to power home that, winning goal, thereby making it 4-3. I think for me, it has always been a difficult game for any big team playing Luton Town. We saw how they troubled Chelsea before Chelsea ran away with the victory. They troubled Liverpool as well, Manchester United, Manchester City. These are top teams who also find it very difficult to play against a certain Luton. But then all that matters for Arsenal is the 3 points, and they also got the 3 points. I think for me, the title race, is on. And now left for Liverpool to see if they can be able to respond in a proper fashion, thereby going back to the top again. Because I stand right now, Arsenal have actually toppled them. Then the game on, because Manchester City as well, they also won their game. Game on.
Game on. We'll have more time to really talk about club football when we come back later this evening, 6 p.m. Join us. But many thanks to Michael for being part of the conversation in the second phase of the show. And of course, for you out there who is watching us, I will say thank you. Thank you, thank you. Happy birthday to every of our sports fans, and of course my friend Sakwe, whose wife is also +1 today. Ekpo Temple is my name. Do have a lovely time here on Atlantic Television Network. Bye-bye.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today.